I wasn't supposed to find it. That's the part that keeps echoing in my head, over and over. If Laura hadn't been late that morning, if she hadn't been rushing around like a whirlwind, trying to get out the door for that networking event she swore was crucial, none of it would have happened. I probably would have kissed her on the forehead, told her to have a great day, and gone about my own. But life has a brutal way of timing things. She was halfway through styling her hair, already in heels, wearing that charcoal blazer she always said made her feel unstoppable. Coffee in one hand, phone cradled between her shoulder and ear. She flashed me a quick, distracted smile and said, "Hey, can you grab my keys?" Front pocket of my bag. Then she vanished into the bedroom to finish shouting something to whoever was on the phone. Her bag was on the kitchen counter, half open and practically spilling over. I didn't think twice. I reached in, but anyone who's been in a long-term relationship knows, your partner's bag is like hallowed ground. I hadn't touched Laura's bag in years, probably. Not because I was trying to honor her privacy or anything lofty like that, just because I never had a reason to. But that morning, I dug in without hesitation. It was a mess in there: loose coins, a mini bottle of Tylenol, tangled earbuds, lipsticks in nearly identical shades, an old receipt from Walmart, a lone earring, a candy wrapper. I was about to give up and call out to her when I saw it, tucked into the seam near the inner zipper, a folded piece of paper, crisp edges, not like the other crumpled scraps in there. It looked deliberate, like it had been handled with care, folded just so. I shouldn't have opened it. That thought hit me halfway through unfolding it. But by then, it was too late. It was a receipt from a boutique wine and gift shop in Sacramento. At first, it didn't sink in. Sacramento? We live in Santa Rosa. That's 2 hours away, and we've never been there together. Not once. I scanned the receipt, my eyes catching the timestamp, Thursday evening, 3 weeks ago. She'd told me she was stuck late at work, wrestling with a new client pitch. I remember it clearly because I'd offered to drop off dinner, and she said not to bother, that she'd grab something with the team. And here's where it got strange. The purchases weren't the kind of things you buy for yourself, a coworker, or a casual get-together. No, these were items you get when you're trying to charm someone, or seduce them. A bottle of Cabernet that cost more than our monthly grocery bill. Imported dark chocolate pralines. Silk sheets, of all things. And at the bottom, in bold, gift wrap, Dove's theme, crimson tissue, silver bow. I read that line 3 times. My brain couldn't process it. I muttered the words out loud, like that would rearrange them into something less incriminating. Maybe she bought it for someone else. Maybe it was a client gift, a team-building thing, something, anything. But no amount of mental contortion made it feel right. My chest tightened. My hands started to prickle. I folded the receipt back up, exactly as I'd found it, and tucked it into the same crease. Pulled my hand out of her bag like it was scalding me. She came into the kitchen a few seconds later, brushing a stray hair off her cheek, keys already in her outstretched hand. I handed them to her and smiled, just like always. She gave me a peck on the cheek, said something about not waiting up for dinner, and rushed out the door. The whole time, I didn't say a word. I watched her walk out, heels clicking across the floor, completely unaware that the ground had just shifted under my feet. I stood there for a long time after the door closed. Long enough for the coffee to go cold. My stomach churned. Something about it felt surreal, like I'd stepped into someone else's life, one where I wasn't the guy with the happy wife and the solid marriage, but just another fool playing the part of the oblivious husband. I wanted to believe there was an explanation, that it was all some bizarre misunderstanding. But deep down, in a place I didn't want to acknowledge, I already knew. That receipt didn't look forgotten or misplaced. It looked preserved, carefully folded, like a keepsake she didn't want to lose. And the worst part? It had never even crossed my mind to doubt her before that moment. Not once, not in 6 years of marriage. I always thought we were steady. Maybe not fireworks every day perfect, but real, dependable, the kind of couple other people quietly admired. I'd tell friends, we're predictable, but we're good. And I believed that until I saw that damn receipt. That night, I couldn't sleep. I went through the motions, brushed my teeth, set the alarm, lay down next to her like always, but something in me had gone numb. Laura came home around 9:30, said something about the meeting dragging on and how Sarah from the design team kept derailing everything with her pointless tangents. I nodded, acted engaged, but it all sounded like static. She slipped into bed, smelling like jasmine, a scent that used to soothe me. I used to bury my face in her neck and feel like everything was right in the world. But now it felt like a deception, a fragrance she'd probably worn that same night 3 weeks ago. Had she worn it for someone else? Had she packed it for Sacramento? I lay on my back, staring at the ceiling, the faint sound of her breathing beside me both grounding and maddening. I didn't say anything. Not that night. I didn't want to hear lies, or worse, half-truths. I wasn't ready to unearth something I couldn't bury again once it was out. But the questions didn't care about my timeline. They came hard and fast, buzzing like wasps in my skull. Why Sacramento? Who was he? How did she meet him? How long had this been going on? Had she done this before? The wildest part was that I didn't even know how to feel. Hurt, obviously. Angry, yeah. But there was this other feeling, this low, smoldering unease, like the world I thought I was living in wasn't real anymore. And I didn't know what was. The next morning, she acted like nothing was wrong. She asked if I wanted toast or cereal, made some offhand remark about the neighbor's dog tearing up our roses again, and I stood there in the kitchen, staring at her like she was a stranger wearing Laura's skin. I kept hearing that line on the receipt, doves. I wanted to scream or smash something, but instead, I smiled and said, cereal's fine. And just like that, I became two people. There was the version of me that got up, showered, went to work, answered emails, and came home, the version she saw, the version that acted normal. And then there was the other me, the one watching her like a predator. Not because I was paranoid, but because I was done being blind. I started noticing things. Her phone, for example, always in her hand, always face down. She used to leave it all over the house, on the coffee table, by the bathroom sink, charging in the kitchen. Not anymore. She started muting her notifications, too. I caught a glimpse of it one night, screen lighting up with a message banner that just said one new message, no name, just that. When I asked who it was, she said it was the group chat from work. Her voice was smooth, too smooth. I nodded, didn't press. Later that week, she mentioned grabbing drinks with her friend Claire. I know Claire. I like Claire. But when I asked where they were going, Laura hesitated for a half-second too long before answering, oh, that new spot downtown, Cork and Vine. I nearly choked. That was the name on the receipt. She was either brazen or careless, I still haven't decided which. But hearing her say it out loud, like it was just another Wednesday night plan, made something shift in me. That was when I started keeping track. Not in a journal or anything theatrical, just small notes on my phone. The dates, the names she dropped, the places. If she was going to lie, I was going to be the one who noticed. One Saturday afternoon, she left for a team strategy brunch. Yes, that's what she called it, a brunch on a Saturday with her team. I didn't even ask questions. I just smiled, told her to enjoy herself, and waited until she was gone before checking the car's mileage. I jotted it down, 41,230 miles. When she came back hours later, smiling and glowing like she'd been sipping mimosas in the sun, I asked how the brunch went. She said it was fruitful. That word stuck with me for days. The mileage, 41,291. 61 miles for brunch. Downtown is 10 miles away. I didn't say a word, but something was blooming in my chest, and it wasn't rage. It was certainty. This wasn't just a fling or a slip-up. This was a pattern. She wasn't faltering, she was moving on. Maybe emotionally, maybe physically, maybe both. But either way, she had one foot out the door, and I was just the doormat. There's something eerie about pretending everything's fine when it's not. You start to feel detached from your own life. You watch her make dinner, laugh at her shows, check her phone every 10 minutes, and you wonder who she's performing for, because it isn't you anymore. One night, she fell asleep on the couch, phone loosely in her hand. I don't know what came over me, but I reached for it, carefully, slowly, like I was defusing a bomb. I didn't unlock it. I couldn't. But I glanced at the lock screen. A new message flashed briefly before fading, "Miss you already." No name, just that. I placed the phone back in her hand, sat back in my chair, and stared at her while she slept. And I knew, whatever we had wasn't ours anymore. She'd given it away. After that night on the couch, something inside me solidified. It wasn't a loud, explosive moment, no shouting, no dramatic showdown. It was quieter, still, like the calm before a storm breaks. I didn't bring it up. Didn't ask who missed her already. Didn't demand to know what was happening. I just let her sleep. But in my head, I was already pulling away. Not because I wanted to, but because I had to. The thing about betrayal is it doesn't hit all at once. It seeps in slowly, like water under the floorboards. One day, everything seems normal. Then suddenly, the whole foundation is rotted out. And I was standing in the middle of it, acting like the walls weren't caving in. So, I started observing. Not just watching, really observing. You know that moment when you finally see someone for who they are, and all their little quirks, the ones you used to find endearing, start to look like lies? That was me, every day. Laura had always been good at stories, not just telling them, but living them. That's what drew me in when we first met. She had a way of making everything feel bigger, more vibrant. She was the kind of woman who could make a trip to the hardware store feel like a quest. And for a while, I was all in. But now I saw how that same talent let her craft an entire life within our life, a second narrative running parallel to the one we'd built together. Her phone was never out of her sight now, locked tight, notifications off. She used to FaceTime her cousin while making dinner, leave her phone on the bed while she changed, ask me to check her texts if her hands were full. All that was gone. She clutched it like a secret. She started going out more, too. The girls became a frequent character in her stories, nights out, weekend brunches, last-minute drinks. But when I asked who exactly she was meeting, the answers were always vague. "You don't know them," she'd say with a shrug. "Just people from work, mostly new folks." Once, I asked if Claire was going, just to see her reaction. She blinked for a half-second too long and said, "Oh, no, Claire's out of town. It's more like, Jessica and some others." Jessica. I'd never heard that name before. So, I kept track. Not just mileage, but names, places, dates. I wrote them down in a locked note on my phone. If I was being paranoid, fine. But if I wasn't, I needed evidence. I needed something to stop me from questioning whether I was the crazy one. One night, she said she had a dinner with the marketing team across town. Team bonding, she called it, like that made it official. "Won't be late," she said, kissing me on the forehead. She wore that same deep red lipstick she usually saved for our date nights. Her perfume was stronger than usual. She spent way too long picking out earrings. After she left, I stared at the door for a long time. Then I grabbed my phone and called Marcus. Marcus is my cousin's husband, ex-cop, now doing private investigation work, mostly for divorce cases and insurance scams. I hadn't spoken to him in over a year, but when he picked up, he recognized my voice instantly. "What's up, man? You sound rough." I told him everything, the receipt, the mileage, the changes in her, the message on her lock screen. I laid it all out, no sugarcoating. He didn't sound shocked. "Happens more than you'd think," he said. "Want me to tail her tonight?" I don't want to believe it, but yeah, I need to know. An hour later, Marcus texted me, she just pulled into the Lakeside Inn, not a restaurant. "She's not alone, I stared at the message, my stomach lurching like I'd been kicked. I didn't realize I'd been holding my breath until I let it out, slow and unsteady. I didn't reply right away. Couldn't. My hands were trembling too much. Then another message came through, a photo. Laura standing in front of the hotel, talking to a man. Tall, clean-shaven, maybe late 30s. He wasn't touching her, but the way he stood, too close, said more than enough. She smiled at him the way she used to smile at me when we were still in that newlywed fog. It wasn't nervous or guilty. It was familiar. They walked inside together, side by side. I sat down on the floor, back against the wall, phone in my hand, and just stared at the photo. There it was, all the doubts, all the quiet suspicions, the excuses I'd let slide, confirmed in one image. And what really hit me, what made my chest ache in a way I hadn't expected, was how calm she looked. Not like someone sneaking around, but like someone who'd done this before, like someone who felt safe. She wasn't just cheating. She'd already left me, maybe not legally, not with bags packed, but emotionally, she was gone. She'd stepped out of our life and into another, and she didn't even flinch doing it. That's when I knew I couldn't fix this. There was no saving it. No confrontation, no tearful apology would undo that moment. She'd crossed a line, and now I had to decide whether I was going to stand there staring at it or walk away from it. I texted Marcus, thanks. That's all I needed, I didn't tell her what I knew. Not that night, not the next day. Something in me shifted after that photo. I stopped wondering if I was imagining things. I stopped hoping there might be a clean explanation waiting around the corner. I knew the truth now, and it wasn't just about cheating. It was about who she'd become when I wasn't looking. She came home around 11 that night, said something about the team dinner running late, how Jessica got tipsy and spilled Merlot all over her cream sweater, how they all laughed about it and closed the place down. She told the story while slipping off her earrings, setting her heels by the door, like it was just another ordinary night, like nothing had happened. I nodded along, pretending to listen, pretending to care. But inside, I felt hollowed out, the kind of numb that comes not from sadness, but from clarity. I'd always thought the hardest part of something like this would be the moment of discovery, the confrontation, the yelling, the heartbreak. But it wasn't. It was the silence afterward, the quiet knowing, the realization that the person across from you has already rewritten the story, and you're the only one still reading the old version. Over the next few days, I watched her even more closely. It was strange, almost detached. She still kissed me goodbye, still texted me to grab milk or pick up takeout, still sent me memes about cats in hats, like nothing had changed. But every time she did, I saw the truth behind it. Every casual joke, every half laugh, every familiar glance, it was all performance. I started sleeping with one eye open, not because I thought she'd hurt me, but because I didn't trust anything anymore. Not her, not myself, not the way I used to believe in things. I stopped asking questions. I already knew the answers, and I didn't need to hear them from her lips to believe them. She'd made her choice. She just hadn't said it out loud yet. But I was done waiting for that. On Tuesday, I called Marcus again. "I'm ready," I said. "You sure?" "Yeah, I need to get out." We came up with a plan. Nothing messy, no drama. I wasn't going to toss her clothes on the lawn or post photos online. I wasn't after revenge. I just wanted out, with my dignity intact. I took Thursday off work without telling her, said I had an early meeting so she'd leave before me. Then I started packing, quietly, carefully, only the essentials. I wasn't taking the couch or the TV or even the fancy dishes we got from her grandma as a wedding gift. I left those. Let her keep them. Let her keep the space we'd filled together. I didn't want any of it. I packed 2 suitcases, clothes, toiletries, my laptop, some old photos of my dad, and a copy of our wedding album I wasn't even sure I wanted. Something told me I might need to look at it one day, not for closure, but to remind myself I hadn't imagined it all, that there had been love once, even if it wasn't enough. I left her a note, just a few lines scribbled on a notepad from the junk drawer, Laura, you don't have to explain anything. I know. I've known. Take care of yourself, I didn't sign it with love. That would have been dishonest. I didn't hate her, though, that surprised me. I thought I would, but hate takes energy, and I didn't have any left to give her. I turned my phone off, pulled the battery out, rented a car, and drove 4 hours north to a town no one we knew had ever visited, a place with crisp air, quiet streets, and spotty cell service in half the neighborhoods. Checked into a motel that smelled like lemon cleaner and solitude. Sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall until the sun went down. I stayed in that town for a week. No one knew where I was, not her, not my friends, not even my parents. I wasn't trying to punish anyone. I just needed space to breathe without her scent in the sheets, without her voice echoing from another room. I needed to remember who I was. I was the guy in room 214 who ordered coffee at the diner and didn't make small talk. It was a strange kind of freedom, painful, yeah, but clean, honest. And that honesty, even in its harshest form, was more comforting than anything I'd felt in months. On the 5th day, I turned my phone back on. It blew up with messages, 19 from Laura, 5 missed calls, a voicemail, 4 texts from her mom, 3 from mutual friends. Asterisk, where are you? Please just talk to me. I don't know what you think you saw, but it's not what you think. Come home, asterisk. I didn't reply. She'd had her time to be honest, her window, her chances, all the nights I lay next to her, quietly breaking, silently hoping she'd look over and decide to come clean. She never did, so I didn't owe her anything now. I turned the phone off again and left it in the drawer beside the bed. I watched the rain hit the window that night, feeling more peace than I had in months. It was over, not in the dramatic way people talk about endings, no fireworks, no final scream, just a slow, steady walk out the door. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't looking back. I don't know what she thought would happen when she walked into that house and found it empty. Maybe she thought I'd come back in a day or two, needing to talk. Maybe she thought this was a stunt, some grand emotional gesture to scare her straight. Or maybe, in that brief moment between seeing the note and sitting on the couch alone, she understood that I was really gone, that I wasn't bluffing, that I'd meant every word without ever needing to say them out loud. I stayed in that motel longer than I expected. I liked the silence, the anonymity. I didn't have to be her husband there. Didn't have to explain anything. I was just the guy in room 214 who ordered coffee at the diner and didn't make small talk. It was a strange kind of freedom, painful, yeah, but clean, honest. And that honesty, even in its harshest form, was more comforting than anything I'd felt in months. Eventually, I got an apartment, nothing fancy, just a small one-bedroom above a cafe. The walls were thin, the water pressure weak, and the radiator rattled like it had a cold, but it was mine. No shared closets, no ghostly laughter from the other room, no trace of her perfume on the pillows, just me, a mattress on the floor, and a stack of second-hand plates from a thrift store down the road. I didn't respond to her messages. Not one. I watched them pile up, like tiny digital pleas. She started with concern, then guilt, then anger, then desperation. It was like reading a breakup in reverse, each message peeling back another layer of whatever game she thought she could still play. She messaged my friends, my sister, even my boss, saying she was worried, that I wasn't acting like myself. That part made me laugh out loud, bitter, sharp, like she had any idea who I was anymore. She tried to show up at my parents' place once. My mom told her to leave. My dad didn't say a word, just shut the door and sat back down at the kitchen table. They didn't know the details, but they didn't need to. They saw what it had done to me, and that was enough. After a while, the messages slowed, then stopped. I guess she realized I wasn't coming back. Months went by. Seasons changed. The cafe downstairs started selling caramel lattes and apple tarts. I got a job at a small garage a few blocks away, nothing glamorous, just steady work. Fixing things with my hands helped. I liked the predictability of it. Engines, brakes, belts, they didn't lie to you. They didn't tell you they were fine and then break down the second you looked away. I started reading again, cooking for one, walking to the park on weekends just to sit and watch the world not collapse. It wasn't the life I'd pictured when I got married, but it was something real, something I didn't have to question. Then one morning in February, I got a letter. No return address, just my name, my full name, not the nickname only she used. I knew it was from her before I even opened it. The handwriting was the same, neat, slanting a little too far right. I stared at it for a while before ripping it open. It wasn't long, just a page. No promises, no begging, just her voice on paper, brittle and broken. She wrote about the silence, how loud it had become in the house without me there, how mornings felt cold even with the heat on, how she poured 2 cups of coffee for weeks before she broke the habit. She didn't deny anything, that surprised me. No excuses, no it just happened or I didn't mean to hurt you. She wrote about guilt, about missing my laugh when I didn't know she was listening, about crying in the parking lot of the supermarket because she saw a guy who looked like me from behind, about how our cat, yeah, our damn cat, sat by the door every night, waiting for the sound of keys that never came. She said she didn't expect forgiveness, didn't ask for a second chance. She just wanted me to know she still woke up thinking about me, that she kept my toothbrush in the holder for weeks before she could toss it, that she missed my weird cereal obsession, my mismatched socks, my awful singing in the shower. She ended the letter like this, *, you didn't just leave the house. You took the warmth with you. And I don't think it's ever coming back. *. I folded the letter and slipped it into the drawer with the other papers, birth certificates, tax forms, an old birthday card from my nephew. It didn't feel like a blade. It didn't feel like closure, either. It just felt finished. She was right, I'd taken the warmth because it was mine to take, and I wasn't giving it back. Laura's world didn't collapse overnight, but from what I heard, it unraveled slowly, piece by piece. The man she left me for, he disappeared. Some said he ghosted her, others said he moved across the country. Either way, he was gone, and she was left to face the mess alone. She lost her job not long after, too many late arrivals, too many sick days. Her social life faded, too. People don't like standing near someone whose life is quietly imploding. She sold off things she used to flaunt, bags, her car, the furniture from our place. Even the cat ended up back with her mom. I didn't feel good about it, but I didn't feel bad, either. It was like watching a film I'd already seen, I knew the ending. 6 months after I vanished from her life, that letter arrived. I hadn't thought about her in weeks, not really. But the second I saw the handwriting, my stomach twisted. She didn't ask me to come back, it wasn't pleading, just a confession. She wrote about how guilt clung to her like damp air, how coffee for one felt like penance. She admitted she didn't recognize herself anymore, that she'd warped something real into something empty. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She just said I'd been the warmth, and when I left, the whole house went cold. I read it once, then again, folded it neatly, and tucked it away. No rage, no tears, just nothing left to say.